found out how other people live and how you live. My mother was a very special person, very serious, a serious Christian, but not overbearing. She believed in living Christianity and not talking Christianity. I'm reminded of several incidences where she showed compassion to other people, and you never really knew that she had done these things until much later in her life. At her going home ceremony, my next door neighbor reflected to my sister, I believe, brother named Calvin Roberts, that first restaurant he ever went to was my mother took him there. Now that was a big thing for him, was a place called Stuckey's. Now, Stuckey's is a joint that you go by on 95, and it's an affiliate of Bob's Big Boy. No classy place, but to him it was a big thing. And living in a segregated town, there were a lot of challenges living in segregation, but she raised us with dignity after my father died. Still, it was a powerful memory of him in the house. Even though he wasn't in the house, you still had the feeling he was there, and there were rules that he wanted us to live by, and she tried to abide by us. If you didn't go to church on Sunday, there wasn't no Saturday. So there was no such thing as getting up on Sunday and saying, I don't feel like going to church. The Willises went to church. They believed in church, religion, black pride, a regiment of excellence. My mother held her own summer school. So when everybody else was playing ball in July, the Willises were inside until 12 or 1 o'clock. She held her own summer school. She sort of forced me to teach myself algebra after the 6th grade, going into the 7th grade, so I wouldn't fall behind. So she sort of set the pace. And you don't know how important that is until you saw the confusion that was going on in other people's houses. Other guys were stealing cars. Willises didn't go to jail. Other people went to jail, but the Willises didn't go to jail. My sex education from my mother can be summed up in a couple of words. If you bring some babies in the house, you get out. That was it. Don't bring no babies home because I'm here and I can't afford to take care of you all. So don't bring no babies home. So out of fear, and I really believed it. I believed that I was going to be put out in the street. So I held myself accordingly. And whether there was a God above or not, I believed that there was a God who sat high and looked low and measured everything that you did. So that alone was enough to keep me out of jail, keep me straight, remind me that if I didn't get a scholarship, I was going to be regulated to the mill. And she taught that all the time. Mama, please. I get it. I got to get a scholarship. If I don't, I'm going to work in the steel mill. I'm going to work in the shipyard. So she was like a combative, consistent sergeant, field marshal, trying to regiment your life. I'm sure we got mixed company in here, but I don't mind. The white man ain't gonna give you no breaks. You gotta be twice as good as him to have half a chance to win. And she drummed that in our head, and I believed it. And so I believed that, and I taught it to my son, and now he's teaching it at 35 to his son. So the spirit of Lillian Willis is still living on, and some of those truisms that were true in the 1950s are still true now. The white man ain't going to give you no breaks. And if you got any grandchildren out here, you need to tell them what Lillian Willis told them. They're not going to give you any breaks. You have to be twice as good. You have to excel because nobody is going to measure you like they measure each other. And for the black race to rise up, we have to do better. And that is in essence what she did. I have the dubious distinction of being expelled from her Sunday school class. She was our Sunday school teacher, and I was a wisecracker and a militant in the 60s, and she put me out because I was disrupting her class. And she brought in one Sunday an album by John Coltrane called A Love Supreme. And that was a buzz because the Sunday school teachers and everybody was saying that Lillian Willis has gone off the deep end. What does that have to do with love and Christianity and Sunday school? And she was trying to explain that Coltrane was a cat who was out there and understood what the ultimate love was, and the love supreme was this love from God. Now, a lot of people were sort of detached from that whole philosophical thing, but this is something that Lillian Willis brought to a Sunday school class of hard-headed 16-year-olds who were embracing Malcolm X and Stokely Carmichael, and she said, yeah, that's true, but you need to check this out. There's another way to do this, and another way to think about it. So her thoughts were always measured. She was a true intellect. She taught us to think for ourselves, which is probably the reason I have probably gotten in as much political trouble as I have, because Lillian Willis, it was never enough for you to regurgitate what she or any minister or anybody said. She would say, study to show thyself approved. Yes. Study it for yourself. If you're a Muslim, know why you're a Muslim. If you're embracing Zen Buddhism, don't read the first chapter. Tell me why this is who you are. And so she pounded in us to be intellectually independent, not tied to anybody else's ideology, not a follower. And she did this quietly as a public school teacher who took her children to church every week and raising 4 children independently, brashly independently, and maintaining her dignity in a segregated town. So you never really know how blessed you are until you see the chaos that's going on in other folks' house. Other brothers your age going to jail. Other families having girls who are having pregnancies out of wedlock and 3 and 4 babies and aborting the chances that life would bring you. So her thing was, if you go the straight and narrow and you follow the rules of this household, you'll have a shot to make it in this world that's very racist and very unforgiving. And those were the underlying messages that I have felt all of my life, and I'm deeply appreciative of her staying on my back. There's much of anybody got a brain that jumps around, hard to stay focused, that's me. And had it not been for her, this voice I always heard in the back of my brain, finish, Rod, stick to it, finish one task before you start another. It's okay to be a daydreamer, but you gotta put something on paper, you gotta finish something. Yes. Finish something. It's not enough just to talk. You gotta put a plan together and then execute it. So I thank her for that, and I have met so many other people who've gone on to the State Department, interpreters for national governments, for this government in French. She was a French linguist, expert in French culture. And she wasn't snobbish about it. That's just who she was. I remember in 57, 58, in a segregated movie in Berkeley, a movie where Dorothy Dandridge was on a slave ship. Anybody know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
She was on a slave ship, and the captain of the ship sort of forced her to make a choice between rolling with him or the brothers that were in the hole.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the movie, she chose to be with the brothers chanting in the hole.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her, why did she make that choice? And she said, that's where her heart said she belonged.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was 7 or 8. She thought it was important for me to see that movie. And it's things like that about loyalty, being proud of your race, doing something that can't nobody else do better than you. That's what she was about. And I hope that people here got a chance to meet her. But for those of you that didn't, you will see her spirit in Keturah, in Stephanie,
Right.
my sister, my brother-in-law, people who strove for excellence. I have a son who has a special gift from God, and I believe that God is going to pave the way for a powerful ministry. And already his son, my grandson, has shown signs that we don't know where the spirit came from. But I suggest it may have come from my mother. I got a praise report from him. He's 6 years old, and there was a handicapped girl on the playground that nobody played with. But he decided that rather than go with the crowd, he was going to give her some attention and let her catch him and tag so that she wouldn't have a very low. Now, this is 6 years old. So I don't know where that spirit comes from, but most certainly it's the kind of thing that Lillian Willis taught in her household. To look out for the poor, to stand up for the least of these, to stand in the gap for people who have no voice. And she preached that and she lived that. And she organized a trip to Prince Edward County when they closed the schools down for black folk. And I remember her putting books together. Mama, why are you doing this during the summer? Well, white folks have closed school down. Somebody's got to do it. That's something. And she was, had I not asked, she wouldn't have told me about it. She told me that and kept on working. So I thank God for my mother and for being at Willis, raised at 503 Phillips Avenue, and having wonderful sisters and brothers, wonderful, powerful childhood that gave me a vision of what this country and what our race of people